I'm Rich Tenney, a physical therapist at Yavapai Regional Medical Center. And there's a neat connection between Yavapai Regional Medical Center when it was the community hospital in my family. And in fact, it deals with a Christmas story that's often told every Christmas in our family. It was a story about my grandfather and grandmother when they had my aunt, who was the third child. She was born prematurely about December 7th, and she had to stay in the hospital, and she came home on the 24th, the day before Christmas. But on that day when she was preparing to come home, there was another lady that was delivering another premature child in the hospital, and my grandmother got to know her. And as she visited with her, she found a little later in the day that she was actually crying. And my grandmother came over and said, "What are you crying about?" And she began to tell her the story. Her family, with I think it was 2 or 3 children, lived in Wickenburg, and their house burned down. And so they came up to Prescott to live with her mother, who had a small cabin up in Groom Creek. And she knew that her children were up there and they didn't have any food, that their wood, their firewood and other things were diminishing, and that they weren't going to have any Christmas. So my grandmother took my aunt home, and when she got home, she wanted to do something. So my grandfather was working at the feed store at the time in Prescott, and they didn't have a phone. So one of the workers had come to pick something up at the house. And so she wrote down a note to tell Grandpa, "We have a family that's in need, that needs a Christmas. They need some food, they need some clothing, and they need some fuel." And so she wrote that note and she gave it to the worker, and she said, "Here's what I want you to do. I want you to grab Boyd, my grandfather, by the collar and say, 'You read this note.' And you don't let go of his collar until he starts to read it." So the worker went there and gave it to my grandfather, and he read the note, stopped his work, and started to work with the community, church members, and they began to fill a full cattle truck full of coal and wood and clothing and food and Christmas gifts. So they spent the rest of the day doing that on Christmas Eve. And my grandfather remembers that when they got out of the car, the children came out and said, "I told you Santa Claus would come." And so they spent the next few hours filling up their house and connecting with these individuals. And that is our famous family Christmas story. And it all started at the community hospital there. And I'm grateful for that connection. That connection continues in our family. I've spent not only time as an employee there, but also as a patient several times following some football accidents, going to the ER, getting my head checked and other things stitched up, as well as my wife. She was born at Yavapai Regional Medical Center, and 2 of my children. And I can tell you some of the most sacred experiences in my life were at Yavapai Regional Medical Center as I saw my beautiful wife bring 2 of my most precious gifts into this world. So congratulations to Yavapai Regional Medical Center for 75 years of making a difference in our community.